Hello, my name is Margarethe Richter. I'm Pharma Application Specialist at Thermo Fisher Scientific. So my position is to develop new applications for pharmaceutical processes on our extruders. The idea is to test them and also to help our customers to make their processes possible on these machines. With this, I have very different processes that I see here, from hot melt extrusion to twin screw granulation, and very, very different dosage forms that we can make with these machines. Amorphization is one possibility to make a drug bioavailable. So new molecules are basically very often very large, and to make them work in a human body, you need to make them permeable through a membrane, plus they need to be somehow soluble in water. And amorphous drugs, the amorphous state is more likely to get into water, so you can basically easily make it available to the human body. So amorphous drugs are the main research, and I think a very good possibility for improvement of bioavailability. There are different possibilities to reach an amorphous state. For example, you can use a traditional technology like spray drying, where you can dissolve your formulation, so the excipient that's helping to keep the amorphous state, plus the active pharmaceutical ingredient, into a solvent, and then you spray dry it. So you basically produce, from that solution, you produce a powder, and that one is then an amorphous matrix, and typically also an amorphous drug. And that's a very nice and good way to make a drug amorphous. But it has some disadvantages. You need a solvent, you have the solvent handling there. So there are several issues and risks when you work with a solvent. One example is you can have solvent residues inside of that final drug, and that's always an issue. So nowadays research is trying to get rid of all the solvents. Then you can also work with hot melt extrusion. So hot melt extrusion makes it possible to also make a drug amorphous. But there also we have some risks, because you need to melt the excipient, and you need to dissolve the active ingredient inside of this excipient. So it has to be stable at higher temperatures. You need to make sure there's no breakage of molecules, so everything is still in the shape you want to have it. So that's also something that makes it sometimes complicated. And at that point, we talked to the company Grace, who make mesoporous silica, and they had the idea, and they found some research on that in different universities, where you can use that silica and mill it together with the API. And if you do that, you will get a very nice amorphous state, and the API, the active pharmaceutical ingredient, is staying in this very tiny, well, probably not more crystalline state inside the pores of the mesoporous silica. And the silica is kind of stabilizing that state. So a very interesting new research, but they use ball milling for that. So a ball mill is something that's very hard to scale up. It is also a very slow and a batch process. So we thought, okay, how can we make this maybe continuous? So how can we continuously produce this amorphous state? And that was a super interesting research. So the question was, can a twin screw system also make this amorphous drug with the mesoporous silica? Well, you basically use that twin screw extruder in a granulation mode. So this is what we set up here. You don't use a die at the extrusion system, but it's open, and basically the screws mill down the material. At that point, we asked ourselves, okay, does this work with a pharma grade steel, which is basically not a mill, right? It works very well because the silica is rather soft and it breaks down very easily. So we could run it on this twin screw system very nicely. Yes, the analytics. That's a good point, because when you run the process, you have white powder, so the powder blend that's going into the extruder in the main feed. The extruder in twin screw granulation mode is basically processing the material, and then you have white powder coming out of the barrel. So you basically don't see what is happening. So is it working or not working? What we did is, what we wanted to see is the difference between the crystalline state and the amorphous state, and that's nicely possible using DSC, so differential scanning calorimetry. That one helps you to identify a melting point, and if it's there, you can see, okay, we have still a crystalline state there. So DSC was one analysis we did. So another possibility is to work with X-ray diffraction, and with this we could very nicely see, do we still have crystalline parts in there? And we really challenged that process. So we worked with a 50-50 blend. So 50% silica, 50% API. So if it was amorphous, we could really make a lot of drug amorphous. So this is quite a large amount of active ingredient. So with this, we could really be sure with this analytics, is this working? In addition, we did a couple of SEM pictures to see how are the particles changing. So you could nicely see when you do this process, the particles get smaller. So we really mill down inside of the extruder. And we could see that the crystals, so the API crystals, got lost after processing. So the crystals really were broken down and got into this pores and were, nice proof with DSC, XRD and SEM. The TSG setup works like this. You have typically a blend that you feed into a main port. And in addition, you could add several other ingredients at different ports. So that's the nice thing about these machines, that they are very flexible and versatile. So you can add different feeds into different ports. And this is the standard of the machine, right? Traditionally, TSG is for particle enlargement. So you would add water or any other liquid to perform this process. But in this really new dry amorphization process, we didn't need a liquid, so you only have one main feed using a gravimetric feeder. And then inside this barrel, we have two screws. These two screws turn in the same direction, so they are co-rotating, intermeshing. And with this, we have a very nice compounding effect. So we can really reach high shear, a high mechanical energy that we introduce into the material if it is needed. The nice thing is we can really customize this screw configuration. And with this, we can basically process the material very customized to the needs we have in this process. The other point is we have an open discharge, and this allows for a free flow of the material, no compaction in the end. And with this, we can have really a continuous process. That's the biggest advantage, I guess. And so it's not that we have one batch and this size is fixed, but we can decide how much material we want to process anytime. We just need to set the feed rate. So how much we feed into the extruder. And with this, we adjust the screw speed of the screws that process this material. And the nice thing is you can change, and this is what I also did in this research. I changed the settings continuously because what is very crucial for this process is how full are the screws, how much mechanical energy I introduce into that process. And this I could do on the flow. So the setup was done. I chose one screw configuration, and then I could add more material, reduce the screw speed, and for each setting, collect material. I didn't have to, make a new batch, but just produce continuously, change the setting, waited for steady state, and once I had it, collect the material. So it was a very quick screening of process settings that I could do here. And the only thing that took a little bit of time and review was to change the screw configuration, because what we found with this process, what is super crucial, is that you have the right screw configuration, and it has to be quite intense mixing and kneading, and quite some energy that we need to introduce into the process in order to reach really enough energy to break down the crystals and to mill down the material. Yes, so we published this in a MDPI paper, and with this we can have you can have more information. I'm a corresponding author here, so feel free to contact me through this paper contact details. And there you can find all the different screw configurations that we tried and all the different settings that we found. And with this, we could get really some interesting new data on how you can make this dry amorphization without solvent and without high temperatures running in a continuous mode.